There are calls to defund the police, and that involves a range of ideas, including reallocating police funding to other agencies that might be better trained and prepared to respond to crises involving mental health and substance abuse. As Ross Lord reports, there's lots of evidence armed officers aren't always what's needed.
Some details of their deaths remain unclear, but Regis Korchinski-Paquette in Toronto and Chantel Moore in Edmundston, New Brunswick share a tragic distinction. The young women died 8 days apart after police were called in to check on their state of mind at a time of distress. Korchinski-Paquette fell from an apartment balcony. Police say Moore died after she threatened an officer with a knife and he responded by shooting her. Social justice advocates say the tragedies underscore the need for a change in who responds to those calls.
By making a shift and saying, well, no, the people who we want to deploy in circumstances where people might be in a mental health crisis are helping professionals, mental health professionals, social workers, ambulance attendants, counselors.
A national police union suggests its members are reluctant participants. The Canadian Police Association says the movement in recent decades to take people struggling with mental health out of institutions forced police to respond to more calls.
It was not something that we were trained to be involved in to the extent that we become involved in it.
The group, which represents 60,000 police officers across the country, says in recent years there's been improvement in mandatory training and awareness and in de-escalating volatile situations. But the association admits the mere presence of a uniformed armed officer sometimes escalates the situation.
You will have people showing up to deal with these issues, particularly if we know that the person's in a mental health crisis, not wearing a uniform. All of our outreach teams that specifically focus on mental health in the community don't wear a uniform.
In both the Moore and Korchinski-Paquette tragedies, officers who responded were in uniform. It might be impossible to ever know what, if any, impact that had on the outcomes, but advocates say sending people trained primarily to project and exercise authority is not an effective arrangement. Ross Lord, Global News, Windsor, Nova Scotia.